Hey everyone, so today I just wanted to take a look at a video. It's a long video. I'm still in the process of watching it, but something came up in the first segment of it that I think is worth responding to. So let's take a look.
So hopefully we're going to touch on several of these aspects and go over evidence on some of these questions.
If I asked you what's the most important cell in the body, what would you say? Would you say the cardiac cell, the heart cell? Would you say the hepatic cell, the liver cell? Would you say some kind of immune cell? The answer, my friends, is none of these. The answer of the most important cell in the body is stem cells, because they can become any of those things and more. We are born producing stem cells, but unfortunately, as we age, our production of stem cells goes down. Fortunately, there is a way to increase our endogenous production of stem cells even as we get older. To find out more, click the link on your screen.
Just to kind of wrap up the ancestor part.
So sorry, I should explain that what Dr. Berry has just said is that oats are not a traditional human food, which is, Gil has more or less agreed with that, right? So it means that it's not a food that humans evolved to eat, although there is some evidence of some selective oat eating in some particular populations dating back 30,000 years. It's not a food that humans seem to have been commonly eating all over, right?
My view is a little different. I think looking at what our ancestors ate is hypothesis generating.
So let me stop it there. So if looking at what our ancestors ate is just hypothesis generating, what does that mean exactly? Are you saying that looking at what a cow eats or ancient cows ate is hypothesis generating? Are you saying that looking at what ancient primates ate is, or ancient meaning just a couple thousand years ago, monkeys ate is hypothesis generating, and we should try different diets? We should randomize control different sets of monkeys to different diets and see who thrives? So the question I'm trying to get at here is, what is the null hypothesis? The null hypothesis is another way of saying, what is a reasonable set of assumptions? We can't really know things in the scientific method. You're always trying to disprove things. But what are a reasonable set of assumptions going forward from where we are right now? And what I'm saying, and what Dr. Berry is saying, is that the null hypothesis is that the foods that humans evolved to eat are going to be the ones that help them to thrive in the modern environment, right? In other words, what's changed, why we're not thriving, is that we've changed our environment in many ways. One of the ways is the food. If we can find the foods that humans evolved to eat, that is the null hypothesis, is that those are going to be the healthiest for foods, just like grass is the healthiest food for cows, right?
It's a very interesting thing to research. I think we can ask questions based on it. Okay, it seems like our ancestors ate X, so maybe this is a food that has a certain health outcome. I think that is not a conclusion. That is just a departure point that we then test with actual human beings, modern human beings, with the foods that we have available.
So I think what we have to understand is that any kind of test is going to have severe limitations, right? You cannot take identical twins or triplets or whatever and put one, separate them at birth, put them in metabolic wards, separate one, put him on a vegan diet, put a second on a carnivore diet, put a third on an omnivore diet, and see who does well. You can't do that kind of stuff, right? So given that, and that's what you would need in order to draw firm conclusions. So given that you can't draw firm conclusions, again, we're back to the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis is that the foods, or the mixture of foods that humans evolved to eat, is going to be the most appropriate for them in most circumstances. There may be weird circumstances, but they may be outliers. But for most humans, that is the null hypothesis, right?
And we observe what health effects are documented and with statistics and with everything. So
I think statistics. So now you're talking like, first of all, a lot of the statistical epidemiological data is adjusted. People adjust it basically to show what they want to show. So once you talk about using statistics and adjusted statistics and so on, now you're throwing science right out the window, right? If you were sticking to randomized controlled trials between triplets or twins and genetically identical people, and many sets of them, because we all have different genes. So you need two people with identical genetics on different diets in metabolic wards so that you're sure that they're not cheating, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So once you get to the level of population data, now that is hypothesis generating. None of the ancient stuff isn't hypothesis generating. That is hypothesis generating. The question of how humans evolved, when humans evolved, what foods they evolved to eat, that should be our default hypothesis, our null hypothesis.
That's a valid point. I would tweak that just a little bit. Would you suggest that the statement cows should eat grass. Is that just a hypothesis generating statement, or
Yeah,
do we have a
So Dr. Berry is saying exactly what I said, that again, we want to look at what an animal evolved to eat in order to generate our null hypothesis. Doesn't mean, like, it may be the case that feeding cows, I don't know, feeding cows fried chicken may be healthier than feeding them grass. It may be the case. Certainly hasn't been tested, right? But I doubt it, right? Because the null hypothesis is that ancestral cow foods, whatever those are going to be the best for the cow. Therefore, the null hypothesis for humans is that ancestral human foods are going to be the best for the human. Okay, thanks. I thought it was an interesting video. When I get through the whole thing, I might make further comments, but I think it's just really important to specify where it is that we are differing as, I think, reasonably intelligent people who have a certain who have a certain starting point, and we need to be clear about that starting point. What is our null hypothesis? I think I'm articulating what most of us in the sort of paleo, keto, carnivore space hold as a null hypothesis. Then the question becomes, what is your null hypothesis if you're in the vegan, plant-based, standard diet spaces, right? And I would be interested from here. I mean, comment down below. If you're in one of those spaces, what's your null hypothesis? What are you trying? What are your assumptions about the world that you think need to be disproved in order to move forward? Okay, thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.